Welcome back to our podcast, Our Last 30, a podcast about life, death, and everything in between. Today, we're going to continue our three-part segment, right? This is part 2. So this is technically episode 32,
32, 33, depending on
around there.
Yeah.
So listen, if you've been listening in, gosh, there's got to be some kind of special prize for whoever's listened to all of that. There's got to be something. In fact, yeah, we have some ideas of things we can do after the conference, but we want to start by reminding you, please sign up. There's a couple of days left, depending on when we post this. It is March 22nd, and if you're still interested in being a sponsor, we could find time for that. Those guys, we can find time. If you're interested in being a registrant, that might be a little bit harder. We might be full by then. By the time we post this. Yeah. But we're not going to say no. If someone wants to give us $10, $20, we're not going to say no.
If the conference passed, then yes, we're going to say no.
Oh yeah, that would be wrong. If the conference is no, by the time we post this, the conference is only a couple of days away. You know, for today's segment, I want to start by telling you, oftentimes we tell men, young men, boys, man up, no tears, no crying, be strong. That's the expectation of young men. That is the true expectation of a young man living in the United States, right? So today's topic, we want to continue. The tradition. You're right. And that may not be true in every place, but traditionally, depending particularly on your age, you may have grown up where it's like, oh man, you don't cry. No. You're not supposed to cry, and this and that, and that might still be a real thing in your community, in your family.
Hopefully this helps too.
What's that?
I said hopefully this helps to what's the word I'm looking for? You know the word that I'm looking for. Dang it.
This is where they're going to do that.
Destigmatize.
Destigmatize, big word.
I know. I looked at a dictionary earlier today. So. But yeah, to destigmatize that
those traditional thoughts and beliefs on manhood.
There you go.
For sure.
Again, Spanish, my first language.
Yeah, and that's what we're going to talk about today, right? Those hidden needs that men maybe struggle to express. And we could add a maybe and tal vez and perhaps and in some communities. We know that this is not true. We're going to talk about not true for everybody, but it's true for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the men in our circle, it's true for them as well. So I have to assume this is likely or somewhat true in your world. And if it's not, pardon us for being so ignorant. But we talked about last week the 3 things that a man needs beyond love. So thank you for those who watched that podcast. We haven't, at the filming of this one, we haven't even posted that yet. So we can't tell you if 50 people watched it or 100 people watched it, right? And that's usually our viewership right there. So we are super appreciative and humbled by those who do take time to listen in. We're going to continue that conversation. And today we're going to talk about, again, beyond the love, right? Where men struggle to express, Caesar. And we talked about it off the air. And 3 areas that we're going to concentrate on today is space and independence. Number 2, security and vulnerability. And number 3, reciprocity and effort. So we're going to expand on those.
I'm not going to say that word. That's a big word for me.
It's a hard word. I had a little difficulty with it. I practiced it. I stood in front of the mirror.
Yeah, what's synonym?
I put synonyms in. I like cinnamon.
Cinnamon's in my tea, but no, that's not what I'm looking for.
And what about a synonym donut? Okay, so reciprocity is what we're going to talk about. Now we're being silly. We know how to say it.
I don't.
Okay, Caesar doesn't know how to say it.
That's why I needed a synonym.
It reminds me of a time I can't tell that story, but anyways, the word is, Julian, you remember when we talked about synonym and cinnamon. Funny story, one day I'll share. Space and independence, Caesar.
Yeah.
Men, traditionally, right, need that space, need that area. You know, when you think about your grandparents, men always had this. I would say it was a privilege to get some time in with the buddies, playing a sport, usually golf or something like that, softball, smoke clubs where they go smoke cigars in the room and read stuff and kind of have these intellectual conversations. Oftentimes, women were left out of those moments.
For sure.
Historically, and that has changed. But for us, we're going to talk about the present day man, the 2025 man, and if you're married to a man and he's for the most part traditional, what that might look like, or if you're a guy in a relationship, what that might look like. And the first one is space and independence. So basically, needing that time alone, Caesar. And then to clarify that needing that time alone doesn't mean that they don't love their partner.
No,
it's just time alone.
And I think it's not just for men. I think it goes for both. It goes both ways in a relationship. As much as you need time with your significant other to build the relationship, to build that intimacy that we've talked about, the respect that we've talked about, you also need time with yourself to understand what it is that you need and want from a relationship, what it is that you want and need from life. So we need our own space specifically to do things on our own. I'm not saying it's going to be every single day or all the time or whatever, but little things where you were able to be yourself and just be with yourself at that point.
Yeah. You know, it reminds me of the word for me is to recharge. And we're lucky in higher ed. We go to conferences, right? And usually it's along one topic line. We went to a conference yesterday, in fact, and we were the keynote speakers there. Humbled to have that approach. The concept, if you will, the simple mission of yesterday's conference was to educate and to empower families and students about financial literacy, about education, about their rights, and all those really important topics. And if you got to attend, it's such a great opportunity to sit back, to learn, and to recharge.
Yeah.
We go to a conference every year. We didn't get to go this last year, but in the past we've gone to Tache. And Tache is this great organization that allows you to connect with others in similar fields, studying the same topics, and it really allows you to feel like you were with family all week long and recharge a little bit and really reconnect. And there's so many Encore,
so
and
many
Takuspa, many conferences that when I was worked for the federal government, we had a lot of those as well. And it really gives you that opportunity. And that's kind of what we're talking about. So that quiet time allows a man to ponder, to reminisce, to recharge. Personally, Caesar, I love sitting outside alone, watching the sunset. Sometimes I have a drink. I haven't had a drink in a couple months now, but I don't need a mixed drink to enjoy the sunset. Today I'm drinking, he's having a hot tea and I'm having some water and juice mixed to cut down the sugar. But that could be easily something we sit outside with and enjoy the sunset. And it just allows me that quiet time. If my kids join me, my wife join me, all the better. But it also feels good to get that quiet time. I also get it on my drive to work.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes I do not turn on the radio. I don't listen to anything. I just get some quiet time to recharge, particularly on the drive back.
Yeah, I think it allows you to be more present and engaging in your activities every day because you've already taken the time to understand how you're feeling, what you're going through, what you're dealing with, deal with those emotions on your own and not bring them to the activities, work, with your family, with the kids, whatever the case may be. And it just gives you that opportunity to be alone with your emotions.
Absolutely.
Which we don't necessarily do. For me, it looks different. Like for me, it's being out in the soccer field. Yeah. Like literally just being out in the soccer field.
You're alone together. Mind. Like everyone, I mean, here's a team.
But we're
Like everyone's doing their own thing, and you know, I get that. I get that.
It clears my mind, like that. I focus on the game. I focus on the objective at that point. Everything else just goes away on the drive home. A lot. I think another one of the big things for me, in the shower, bro. I think for me, the shower, just a nice, hot, calming shower, just allows you to think. And it also, I think it also serves in a different way of like cleaning yourself of all those thoughts and all those things and all those emotions, bad things that you've been going through.
Caesar, it's a physical and spiritual cleansing.
Exactly. To be able to just get it all out, and you can literally see it go down the drain, and you can
it's a
feel
great
like,
visual.
whew, okay, that's something that got lifted. Okay, let me get ready for the day. Let me get out. Whatever, and I think it's beneficial whenever it comes to a relationship, because again, you get to understand who you are as a person. We talked about it last time, last episode. Attraction fades, character does not.
That's right.
So understanding who you are and who you're coming into this relationship, it's important to have a long-lasting relationship. And in order to do that, you got to understand who you are as a person first, because we cannot be somebody that a partner needs if you don't know who you are.
It reminds me, Caesar, of you know, you've ever flown. They tell you, right, put the mask on yourself
first, and then the kids,
and then help everybody else out. So if you're not well, you can't be well to help others.
Exactly.
Right. If you're not 100, you can't be giving that. Okay. So the same thing. If you are drained, uncharged, not feeling it, you can't give to your partner or anyone else for that matter. But if you spend some time alone reading, if you have a religious text, you read the Bible, or I like to read self-help books, you know, and I like listening to music. It's soothing to me. I like the alone time. I like to dim the lights. I like to put on my music. I enjoy it. And then I like to transition also to alone with my partner, meaning what Caesar is talking about on their soccer field. That's where he gets his time to clear his head and recharge. I spend time also with my wife if we're watching a television show or we're just laying down listening to music. I like the silence from the other human component and listen to music, and then you get a break, the commercial comes on, and you just kind of talk about that. That's healthy, man.
Yeah, and I think honestly sometimes as men we're also afraid to be alone at times, and I've noticed it since I've been single. I spend a lot of time by myself now. Like before, whenever I was dating or whenever previous years, even whenever I was single, I wanted to be out with the friends. I wanted to be out with somebody. I wanted to have the companion. I wanted to have that company. Now, bro, I go to the movies by myself. Yeah. People think I'm weird because I'm sitting there eating my popcorn, enjoying a movie by myself, or go out to dinner and sit by myself at a restaurant or whatever. But sometimes people, again, judge you or think it's weird. Oh, why are you such a loner? Or why is he alone? Like what things like that. Yeah. The men sometimes are afraid to do it. So being able to have a partner that will allow you that opportunity 100%. to do that will encourage it, I think, as well. Like, hey, go take the time for yourself. Go on a walk. Go to the gym. I used to go grocery shopping a lot. Like for me, whenever Walmarts were open 24/7, I used to be a very nocturnal person. I hated being alone in the room, or I hated being alone at the house. So I'm like, let me go and focus my mind elsewhere. What can I do at 2, 3 in the morning? Let me go roam the halls of Walmart. Just walk aimlessly. Don't even know what I'm buying. I'm not even buying anything at times. Just walk in and it lets you be with yourself. And again, in that sense, people they're not gonna be like, oh, he's weird. Oh no, he's just doing groceries or he's doing this. But sometimes we need those.
You're also
those
getting
spaces.
some exercise in.
Well, yeah.
You know, like you're clearing your thoughts. You're getting some steps in. So like, listen, there's a lot of healthy things you can do. Mental health is key in this point right here. You know, not too long ago, and I shared this once before. I haven't gone a whole lot of detail, but I took a couple days off, just a long weekend, to go camping. We enjoy camping as family. I needed this one alone.
Yeah.
It was cold. It was 30 degrees. I stayed in at the tent. I used methods to eat less and just drink water. I needed to clean my system of some thoughts, of some impurities. I needed some time alone. I came back with a greater respect for myself, for my family, for my spouse, for the ability to recharge. I came back a better father, a better husband, a better me.
It lets you put things into perspective. It gives you that opportunity to really understand, in this sense, what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong.
Absolutely.
And if anything needs to change or if anything needs to be modified. Because again, we tend to go through life trying to solve all the problems, trying to be the provider, trying to do this, trying to accomplish more and more and more. And we put that in a rear view mirror. It was like, well, I'll figure it out later. I'll understand later. Or they'll tell me what I need to fix. But when we have this alone time, it just comes natural because you start things like, dang, I could have done this differently. Or dang, I should have done this. Or I should have done that. And that reflection cleanses you.
Absolutely. Please, man, use the comment section. This is really where we want to hear from men who have experienced the same, women who've seen that in their partners. And here's the bottom line, okay? A person, in our case, we're talking about men, who get that healthy space. Healthy is a big part of that component in a relationship, comes back more engaged, more present emotionally, emotionally available and able to communicate. That time alone, if done effectively and healthy, can really, really do a lot for a relationship. Now, trust is a big part of that as well.
Of course.
You know, so you have to work that out with your family, with your partner. But what a powerful tool for men to use to recharge and to feel like men again.
And I'm glad you brought the healthy part of it too, because again, going back to my own personal experiences, sometimes we think that, let me go get drunk, let me go to the club, let me go party. Bro, yeah, that's your alone time, but it's not a healthy environment where it gives you the opportunity to recharge, to reattract. No. And again, that's my personal experiences. I felt that's how I went through it. So it's fun, and I'm not saying don't do it because I still do it, but don't use it as an excuse to, this is how I recharge, or this is how I'm gonna. Nah, it's something fun, and it's something that we all enjoy doing.
You know, so on point 2, the security and vulnerability. Ooh. We use the word vulnerability a lot. It's a big word, man. Like it's a tough one for most men. You're talking about creating a space where someone feels confident enough to open up. And we have been, our lives usually are bottle it up, don't say anything, don't communicate, don't let them know, don't show them your cards. And that could be an effective tool when you're talking about a lot of situations. Not an effective tool when you're in a relationship. No,
absolutely not. No, I think you got to be vulnerable and be also sensitive enough to be able to open up and talk about what's going on. I think
stress. Think about the stress in our lives. If you don't open up about that, Caesar,
bro, that'll eat you up.
It'll eat you up.
It'll kill you.
We're all stressed. Everyone's feeling this stress. Men and women, partners, children are feeling it. Open up and model that behavior. And maybe your kids, if you have them, maybe your spouse, or your partners, the family members you live with in your home will also be encouraged to open up and express themselves, again, in a very healthy way.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to also one of the things that we mentioned at the previous episode. Whenever men have this vulnerability and are able to man up, per se, and talk about their feelings and what they're going through, there needs to be a sense of understanding and secureness that the partner is not going to use that down the road for their benefit. Because if not, at the end of the day, it's detrimental. Instead of helping that person, if you're going to use it against them in an argument or whatever, when things come up.
Can you imagine if you took months or years to finally open up and show your vulnerability and then a few weeks later, in the next opportunity for an argument, they use that against you. Like,
it's a low blow.
I just can't imagine. Let me take a moment to just say I'm grateful that I don't have family members. I don't have a spouse. I don't have anyone in my circle that uses those tactics to hurt me.
Yeah, they'll lose those low points in your life to try to bring you back down when you're up.
What you're talking about is being able to process your emotions safely.
Yeah.
To share your emotions safely. To be vulnerable. And to know that it's going to be used only within that
to reassure you that, for example, if you're doubting yourself on something that you're doing, or hey, I think I messed up doing this, or I think like, okay, well, no, you didn't mess up. You could have done things differently, maybe, but I'm here to support you, or I'm here to do this, instead of like, yeah, whatever, you're just overthinking it, or whatever, and then using it down the road, and oh yeah, you should have done this, or you should. Well, we talked about it. You said I was just overthinking it.
You know, if that happened at your office, at your work, at your employment, you could go to human resources and you know, like imagine a team member or a boss use some information like that to hurt you. Right? You have a way to kind of protect yourself. You don't have those protections in a relationship.
No.
If someone wants to do that and say that, and once it's said, you can't retract that. Mm-hmm. All right? What do you do? You know, and actually, so here's a question. Someone says that to you in a relationship. How do you navigate past that, over that, under that, around that, Caesar? You know what I mean? Like this silence tells you the difficulty of being a man and defeating us in that matter.
Yeah. It's
the same thing if we did it to women, right? But because our topic is men and because we're men, this is kind of what we're talking about. Can you ever get over it?
I think very few do get over it. Or if they do, it takes a lot of work and a lot of time to be able to go over it. Yeah, absolutely. That's key one, or the first component of it. Because when that happens, they have literally destroyed a man completely from the bottom up. So they need to rebuild themselves and rebuild that confidence, that reassurance, that sense of respect that they want to have in a relationship. It just breaks you down completely once that happens. So yeah, it takes a lot of time, and therapy is number one because, well, sometimes therapy is number one because if it already happened in a relationship where you felt vulnerable and talked about these things, and now you have to talk through a therapist about them again, you might not even be able to go through it.
Absolutely. Just make a great point. You know, so what you're talking about is basically being honest without the fear, right? The fear of, as you said, like breaking a man down. How do you recover? How does a man recover from that? How does the relationship recover from that? I don't know that a whole lot of people can get past that. You know, he shares his fears, his struggles, and you use that against him. I just can't imagine there's a whole lot of opportunities after that without therapy, without the intentionality of fixing
from both sides.
Absolutely. So the bottom line on that one is, you know, when we feel safe, if you will, emotionally safe, we're more likely to open up, communicate. The end result is a better relationship, a deeper relationship, strengthens that bond. And so that's the opportunity that we're talking about. In fact, these are all opportunities.
Yeah.
Right? You know, if you think about it, there's an opportunity to fix things. If you're not doing it well, and oh, by the way, we're not coming to you saying that we have lived good lives, perfect lives, and made all. We're learning from our mistakes.
Yeah.
The reason we were able to say, hey, dude, real quick, what are the top reasons relationships struggle, or what is the top 5 things a man needs? And we're quickly able to break those up correctly, simultaneously, cohesively, is because we've experienced this in our relationships, in our professional relationships, in our personal, emotional, and so that's what we're talking about today. The third point is the reciprocity and effort. Okay, to have that reciprocated, to be returned back. So men need to feel like, basically, summarize, they're not the only ones putting in the work, right? And so, let me make this about work for a second. The word work surfaces. So, if you're on a team, there's a team of 4, and you're doing 50% of the work, you're already wrong. You're wrong for agreeing to doing 50% of the work, and they're wrong, but at the same time, they're never going to interrupt that. If you're going in, and you're supposed to be, even distribution, 25, 25, 25, 25. But if you're doing 50, why would anyone interrupt that? Right? Because they're getting 50%, or they're getting their return, definitely, on your investment.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same thing in a relationship.
Yeah, I think nowadays we when we look at social media and when we look at a lot of these relationships, a lot of people that talk about relationships, a lot of women tend to be like, I love when they send me good morning text messages or good night text messages or whatever. Yeah, a man's gonna do that, but at the same time, it also feels good to not be the first one that initiates those conversations or that knows that they're thinking about you too. I think that's also a big thing. Like, for example, when we're talking about sending a good night message or whatever, knowing that you don't have to be the one like, hey, have a good night or whatever to that relationship, to the partner, whoever, and they do it on their own, that makes you like, oh, cool. Like, they were thinking about me. I'm in their head, So little things like that, it has to be a two-way street. That goes to a lot of things. I mean, it goes to planning dates. It goes to planning outings. Little things like that. I think we're raised traditionally in a sense where the man has to be the one that brings flowers to every date. The man has to send flowers for the birthday, whatever. They gotta go all out for Valentine's Day. They gotta provide the most expensive meal or whatnot, whatever the case may be. It doesn't really matter. But sometimes men want to feel that. They want to be on that other side of the table and feel what it feels like to be taken care of, to be provided for, to be, even if it's a simple gesture.
Even if it's just acknowledged.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
It's like, hey, I think about if you want to celebrate Mother's Day, you want to get a reservation at a restaurant, you better be several weeks, if not a month or so, at most restaurants here in the DFW.
Oh yeah.
And if it's one of those top restaurants, you better be several months, sometimes a year in advance.
Yeah, depending on which one. Yeah, absolutely.
You want to take that out to lunch on Father's Day? You can show up that day. You do not need a reservation.
No.
That's the difference in celebrating women and celebrating men. Right? And that's what Caesar's talking about. You talk about going to any store. Hallmark was not created for Father's Day cards. It's for being in love. It's for Mother's Day. It's for the anniversary. With the concept, the idea of men buying for women. And so, listen, and I wouldn't change any of that. I love it. I love spoiling the women.
Absolutely.
The women in my life. I love buying flowers for my daughters, for my wife. But what we're talking about is beyond that. We're talking about the acknowledgement that, hey, you're not in this alone. We're doing this together.
Mm-hmm.
We're a team, right? That's what we're talking about. Being a team. So the other point for us is that showing appreciation side, the return of affection.
Yeah.
It's big, dude. And I would say that most men are going to be critical of men. Most people are going to be critical of men for not showing enough affection, right? Even though we're saying that we want it, we're not always on that better end of displaying that and giving it.
Yeah, and I think that also goes back to the communication aspect of it, because we go back to how we were raised. We were raised to understand one way of showing appreciation or showing love. But if that person does not appreciate it that way and they don't communicate it with you, then they're always going to be like, oh, well, he doesn't show his appreciation to me. Well, tell me how you want it. Some people don't like flowers. People that sometimes don't even like chocolates that you give them. Like, so other women love to get flowers and chocolates, and they know that you appreciate them that way. So it also goes back to that communication with your partner, especially, and with the men as well. But understanding that whenever a man is showing this appreciation, hey, thank you, that was very thoughtful. Hey, I really appreciated that. I really love these flowers. I really love these chocolates. Thank you for taking time out of your day to do this or that. That goes a long way to showing that reciprocation of appreciation to a man.
And also the emotional investment, right, Caesar? So if your partner is doing all the work and being emotionally invested and you're not, step it up, mom. Hey, step it up, my guy. They do better. And in our case, we're asking like, hey, what about if there's men who are giving so much emotionally and the women aren't reciprocating that? That's an issue. But in my experience, it's been, and what I've heard mostly is women giving all of the attention, all of the work, all of the emotional side, and men not reciprocating that. That's what I've seen personally.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I can see that for sure. But I hate repeating myself, but I think it goes back to the communication aspect of it.
Yeah.
Because if a man doesn't know, so there's 2 points. If a man knows what the woman wants and is not doing it, then absolutely. But if you're not having that communication and you think by opening the door to the car, holding the door when you're walking in, that's you showing appreciation and that person doesn't feel it the same way, then it's still going to be unequal, even though you both are showing it because of that lack of communication. So it goes to having that healthy understanding of each other and what it is that they each expect of that relationship and what the outcomes are going to be. And goes back to the vulnerability that men sometimes we don't tend to have it. We and I've noticed it with a lot of men. They tend to not stick around, but they tend to just go by with the bare minimum.
Yeah.
They think they feel like the bare minimum is enough, but deep down it really isn't.
Some men might be apprehensive about giving so much to a relationship that if they don't know it's all gonna if it's gonna turn out right. If that's any person. If a person has been burned before, they get into another relationship. Talk about the baggage, right? All the problems they're going with. They're in their head. It's like the psychology of it. They're not going to give 100% because like, nah, like they're going to burn me. They're going to do this and that, and that might not be the case. It's a whole new relationship.
Yeah.
So you have to give. It goes back to the conversation, right? The bottom line is, you have to have 2 people in that relationship. If you're in a traditional relationship, 2 people, 2 partnerships working towards the same goals. Open communication, respectfully engaging, healthy efforts to ensure that you are reciprocating each other's love, attention, emotional involvement, and that's where your relationship will strive.
Yeah.
But if one person is doing it and the other is not, it simply cannot work for too long.
For sure. And I think also just going back to the last point you were talking about people thinking that they're going to be burned by that next relationship or whatever. I think a lot of people date with the intention of just dating and companionship. I think you got to be intentional in that aspect as well. For me, I'm not dating just to date. I'm not dating just to have somebody by my side or have a companion to an event or whatever. Whenever I'm dating somebody,
you're dating for papeles.
Shut your. I was gonna go very deep into this.
Okay. Scratch that part. Okay, he's not dating for papeles. Okay, you ready to start?
Whatever I'm dating and going about the relationship or looking for somebody, I'm dating with an end goal of marriage.
Absolutely.
I'm not just looking for somebody to hang out with for a couple months and then, all right, thank you, next kind of thing.
Right.
Like for me, I'm into, even if I was burned in previous relationships, or
bro.
even whatever happened in previous relationships, I think you have to come into a relationship with that mindset.
Life partner, dude.
Exactly.
I get it.
And if even if they did you wrong, or even if others do you wrong, if you don't have that mentality, and if that's not what you want, perfect. But make it be known up front.
Let me ask you this: is there one thing you wish you had communicated better in a past relationship or in past relationships?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if there's just one thing.
There's things we wish we could have expressed better, right?
And shit, I wish I could still express some of those things right now, but it goes back to that. Just sometimes men feel like when they do express some of these things, they're being a burden to that other person as well.
Yeah.
Like it's putting more pressure on them, or letting them off easy at some points as well. Of like, oh, okay, instead of having the difficult conversations, it's either I avoid it and I have those conversations, or you're letting it off easy. It's like, okay, maybe she didn't mean it that way, or maybe they didn't mean it this way. So yeah, I think it's yeah. There's a lot of things that I wish we could have had said, could have done differently in a relationship.
And here's another thing, Caesar. Like if you someone like me who's been married for a long time, I think about a lot of my friends who've been married many years. It's almost like multiple relationships. To be fair, who my spouse and I were in our 20s, we're married. Is that who we are in our 50s?
Mm-mm.
So things change. What you want, what you seek, your manner of seeking them, the method to seeking them. I would say that I would refer to past relationship, but for me, I would almost refer to a past relationship in the sense that in my 20s, I think I wanted this.
Yeah.
But in my 50s, I know I want this.
Mm-hmm.
I am looking for the things we talked about in our last podcast.
For sure.
I'm looking for peace and respect. If you can't respect me, there is no reason for us, this is just Fred's perspective, for us to be together.
Mm-hmm.
Caesar, if you and I didn't have respect for each other, there's no reason for us to be in business together. It would never work if we didn't have a mutual respect. We bust each other's chops. We have a good time. It's all in good fun. Never, ever would I be disrespectful to him and vice versa, right? Like it just wouldn't work. Mm-mm. We know those lines that we can't cross. If I'm unable to be vulnerable with my partner, after the passing of my mom, there were some moments of vulnerability, and health issues have caused me to feel vulnerable, man. Absolutely. Like if you're not 100%, you're not 100% you. Mm-hmm. You're not 100% you. Are you even you anymore? And those are the things that keep creeping into your mind. I think about this morning we were at church, and the pastor was talking about Pastor Stanley there at Ferris Baptist Church. He talked about the negative thoughts that creep in and the purpose of those. Yeah. Those negative thoughts and those efforts are intentional to keep you from effectively communicating with your partner.
Yeah.
From being happy.
From being happy.
From being happy. That's how that works, man. Understand that. And even if you don't have a biblical or religious perspective to that, negative thoughts, negative thinking, negative perspective, it's not going to help you. No. It's not going to get you anywhere. You have to be positive. Mm-hmm. That's another big part of all this. Everything we talked about is positivity. 100. What else we got, man? What else we got? Are you guys enjoying this?
I think it's a great way to conclude part 2. And
part 2, brother. Listen. Go to the comment section. We need, for 2 reasons. One, we appreciate the engagement. Yeah. I love reading the comments. We respond to them. And also, it helps the channel. It helps the channel grow. The as they say, the algorithm benefits from us having that engagement side, right? So, part 2 of our 3-part segment on this episode. If you have not registered for our
Summit.
March 22nd mini summit, you might have a day or two to do so. If not, look for us next year. We're going to continue again. Also, continue to follow us and share. We're working on some other projects, Teaser. We're working on books, several books that we're going to be publishing. We are funding all that ourselves. We're going to do all that. And we have some other ideas of things that we're going to be doing, but would love to hear from you. Would love to connect. Thank you for everyone that we met at yesterday's summit. That was fun.
Yeah, the
for
students
following
were
us.
there.
Phenomenal students and families. But thank you again, and for listening, for liking, for sharing. We'll see you on our next episode.
See you guys next week.